Going back to early October of 2025, the president originally floated the idea of a distribution to us in the form of some type of dividend, distribution, rebate, stimulus type of payment. And then on November 9th, he officially proposed it as he made that social media post talking about the 2000 dividend paid to everyone except for rich people. And then again, he commented on it many, many times since then. However, let's pop this article up right here, right now. Feel free to read through the details on it and let me explain. All right, so obviously a little while ago now, however long it was, month or so, month and a half or so, give or take a little bit. I don't remember the exact date, but the Supreme Court did come out and they struck down the legality of the IEEPA tariffs, IEEPA tariffs, okay? In other words, basically saying it's illegal, you need to repeal these, and then you also need to repay all of that money that you've brought in through tariffs, which is about $300 billion going back to early 2025 through January of 2026, about $300 billion. But anyway, shortly after, I mean like moments after the Supreme Court came in and they struck down the legality of the IEEPA tariffs, the president came back and he implemented a 10% tariff, which he ultimately raised to 15% just moments thereafter. But then also at the same time, around that same time frame when the Supreme Court struck down those tariffs, we had a bunch of different lawmakers and individuals, governors across the country that essentially came back and requested that the administration issue $1,700 refund payments to the residents of these different respective states and areas around the country, because that is what they have found, according to the studies, that the average household has paid because of the tariffs just over the last 1 year. In fact, as you can see here in this article, it actually states $1,745 is how much they have anticipated and how much they have calculated that the average household has paid just in the last year due to the tariffs, above and beyond our regular expenses. But they're actually anticipating, because the president has been talking about this $2,000 dividend payment or $2,000 stimulus check that we've all heard about many, many times, and that the tariff revenue that was going to be funding that $2,000 payment has essentially dried up, or, has reduced significantly because the tariffs have been struck down. But then also the 15% tariff is not going to bring in nearly as much revenue as the original IEEPA tariffs were. They're basically suggesting that, hey, rather than doing this $2,000 dividend payment, again from the president, we may be looking at something along the lines of a $1,745 refund payment versus a $2,000 dividend payment. Now, it might be kind of weird, but wait, isn't this kind of the same thing? It's kind of interesting because yes, the name would be different. The dollar amount would obviously be a little bit different. But at the end of the day, it's kind of interesting how this works. Because the original proposal, the original idea of the $2,000 dividend payment was literally saying, hey, we're collecting hundreds of billions of dollars worth of tariff revenue. We're going to peel off a portion of that and pay it out to everybody in the form of a dividend. Dividend is basically just another way of saying profit share, or basically taking a bunch of the money that's being brought in, peeling some of that off, and sharing some of that revenue with the individuals in the form of a $2,000 dividend is what they like to call it, right? So that'd basically be a profit share, the $2,000 dividend. But in this case, they're actually suggesting, forget the $2,000 dividend, issue a $1,745 refund payment for the reasons that I mentioned earlier, which is they have calculated that the average household has paid $1,745 more over the last year just because of the tariffs. So basically saying, rather than doing a profit share from the tariff revenue being brought in that we're all paying in the first place due to higher prices and sharing that back with us, rather let's just issue a $1,745 refund payment to the people, because that's what the average household has spent above and beyond their regular expenditures. We're just going to pay that money back. At the end of the day, I mean, money is money, right? Whether you give it a name of a dividend payment or a refund payment, who cares, right? The name doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, it's dollars, okay? So anyway, there's many different ways that are being discussed with this $300 billion plus that the federal government has collected in the form of tariffs over the last year or so. But there's speculation, there's discussion that maybe rather than any type of dividend payment, we could possibly be seeing some type of refund payment back to us as well. Now, I'm going to be fair with you. It's totally up in there as far as what may be happening. And again, I want to make it very clear. I would just say this much. just count on nothing happening, okay? Count on nothing. And if we happen to get something, then great, bonus, we win. But if we have our expectations along the lines of, yeah, can't wait to get the $2,000, can't wait to get the $1,700, I need that money, the money's already spent, I'm going to spend it on something or whatever, right? If we have the expectation of getting it and it never arrives, we're going to be pretty upset. But if we have the expectation of, probably not going to happen, and if it does, cool, but if not, like I'm not surprised kind of thing. If we have that mentality and we go into it and all of a sudden we maybe do get something, well then, hey, sure, great, we win, bonus, awesome, we get something. But we've also known, and I've been very, very clear and very transparent about this from the very start, going back to October and November of last year, I've said this whole thing is a big old capital if, a big old capital if this happens in the first place. And I've been saying for quite a while as well, they really need to thread the needle on this as far as the timing of the distribution of this money. Now, obviously, if it was a dividend, the timing would need to be a little bit more precise, right in front of the midterm election, not timed too close or not too far, but timed precisely. In the form of a refund payment, I just feel like, hey, just get that money out to the people as soon as possible, whatever, timing